Okay, people. So, I'm here to help you some more with some more GraphQL stuff. In GraphQL, there are a lot of tutorials out there that make very simple things complicated, overcomplicated. And I'm going to break down to you how to use an enumeration within GraphQL. If you aren't familiar with them, I will explain them to you. But how to use them within your GraphQL API when you create, and we'll be using the data from our last project. And let's go ahead and do this. Okay, now let's talk about enumerations. What is an enumeration? An enumeration is basically an enumeration is an object which has that can have multiple properties that we use as constants. That's it. So in the context of Swift, you might, so here's an example of an enumeration. Okay. Um, this right here, enum, custom errors of type error. You don't have to worry about it. Just remember enum custom errors. And where is this used and how is this used? I will show you. This is an example. So I have this object called networking service. And what it does is I pass it a string, usually an acronym, say something like UL or DL or OL, whatever. And this right here just returns a URL. Don't worry about all this other constant stuff. It returns a URL. If there is no URL, it throws an error right here. Custom errors dot bad URL. This is an error, a type of error that it throws, and the system will deal with that error accordingly. But instead of saying return a string, right? Instead of having this return a string, it throws an error of this type, right? And we jump back to this definition. This is what happens if you look for the description of that error. So you remember in our last project, the last project we did, we had fighter data, right? Let's go, and this is fighter data, right? Now, let's go back over here to our type definitions, okay? So our type is MMA fighter with an ID, name, record, age, birth date, primary martial art, right? And we give it an array of primary martial arts, right? This is the primary martial art, okay? This is the type. This is what our enum, our enum is the type, right? And we can have multiple types, right? Of primary martial art. Kickboxing, karate, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, wrestling, Muay Thai, boxing, right? So when we look back at our fighter data of type primary martial arts, what's the type what? It's not a string, right? This is of type come on, stop. This is the type primary martial art. Okay. And we go back here. Huh. And this is how we get our primary martial art because it correlates to kickboxing, right? Because this is in our enum, right? Kickboxing, karate, jiu-jitsu, all of this is in our kickboxing, karate, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling. We can find all these types in here. And we return an array of these. Okay? Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. Okay? And then in our resolver, fighter, when we do our search by martial arts, we pass in the martial art, which can either be a string or something of type dot something of type dot primary martial art, or dot kickboxing, primary martial art dot kickboxing, karate or jujitsu. So let's go back here to resolver, right? The fighters list dot primary martial arts dot includes. This is a function that searches an array to see if this element is in the array, this element which is passed to it. So now, right now, this is not, hold on for a second, stop. This is not running, so I'm going to say what? npm start. This starts my server. And there we go, localhost, right? Go here, command C, and you're going to go to your Google Chrome. Don't go to your, don't go to Safari. Safari doesn't work. Go to your Google Chrome, paste, localhost 4000. I know I was saying 400 in earlier videos, 4,000. Man, it took a little while for it to actually go. So now I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to query this by martial arts, right? Get rid of this, right? And I'm going to pass this a string, right? And I'm going to say wrestling. WRESTLING, wrestling. Name, right? And hometown. Name, hometown, and age. Right? Now I'll go ahead and run. Derek Brunson, Wilmington, North Carolina, USA, 38. So this is how this works. And we did this not by necessarily by putting in the string. We used an enum. Now, an enum, let's make no mistake about it. An enumeration is primarily for organizational purposes. Okay? You can obviously do this without the enumeration because we did it without the enumeration in the previous project, just for organizational purposes. Okay? Conventional purposes. When we're trying to build an app that scales, right? That's what we do. Also, in the context of Swift, there is autocomplete in with regard to using an enumeration. So yeah, with that being said, that's all there is to that. I want you to download this from my GitHub repo, clone it to your machine, run it, and walk through it so that you understand. But this is how you implement an enumeration into your project. So yeah, on to the next.